Hi there. I'm Wendy Stone, your host and reader for Storytime. Tonight we'll be continuing with Dog Upon Atlas in Chapter 3. Thanks for joining me. Deacon Tawnyside, Benson asked. I growled. I couldn't help it. Benson? What the? Get over here, you war dog, he said. Despite the fact that I was going to be delivering the worst possible news, and that he was lying there, sick, I was happy to see him. Meaty Hawk, I teased and nuzzled his gray face. It's good to see you. Stop calling me Meaty Hawk, you git. Seriously, I can't believe it, Deacon. What luck, huh? I was about to page you. I think Jomi is in trouble. And who better than the best nose in the 5 boroughs to find her, huh? Damn. My gaze drifted down, then up. I couldn't find his eyes, only that damned left ear, or what was left of it, nubby and scarred. My mind escaped into the memory, the last time we'd both seen his ear whole, and the last time I'd seen him laid out. The last battle to be fought on Rikers Island. 1,000 prisoners, and me and Benson. Benson a fresh recruit, a volunteer of all things, and me, of course, a draft. We'd gotten hit hard in a skirmish to advance our line, marking territory, the name of the game. Some dog from the other side had taken most of Benson's ear. While Benson sat there, his eyes stuck open, blood spilling into them, I looked for his lump of flesh ear. I'd spotted it on the ground only a few feet away, but the sounds of fighting dogs grew closer. Instead of his ear, I grabbed his cowl in my teeth and dragged him into a nearby ditch. Benson was the field medic. I was just a pawn. But the shock of fighting had twisted his little psyche. As I made him walk me through the stitch, singing badly, he'd screamed like I'd never heard any dog scream. Nearly peed myself, I said softly. What? He asked. Nothing. For years after the war, me and Benson, we kept it up, running together, the new families, the friendship. Then it fell off. Between my time on the force, turning me ugly, then the simmer addiction, pushing me way past ugly. Where'd you go? Benson asked, pulling me into the present. It's my fault, I said. It's my fault our friendship fell off. I was such a jerk. I let our friendship die. We're still friends, he said. You got lost for a while, that's all. But Deacon, you can make up for it right now. I need to talk to you about Jomi. I haven't heard from her in over a... Benson, I interrupted. She's gone. That's what I'm trying to tell you, Deacon. I need you to... No, Benson, listen to me. I laid it all out. The cases I'd been working, the missing dogs, finding Jomi where I expected to find at least one of them. My chase through Manhattan, all the way to the pier. He gawked and blinked so many times I thought maybe his hearing had gone too. Benson? His mouth raised, his neck stretched. He howled at the ceiling. Part of me wanted to run from the hospital, dig a hole in the road, and bury my head. But I howled with him, long and loud. After our throats went dry, I sat with him for a while. The pain etched on his face hurt me in places I'd forgotten I had. Sitting there with nothing better to do, my senses examined him. Benson was a year younger than me, but he looked several years older now. A sallowness in his face. Early grays brushed through his muzzle and ears, thinned out skin and fur, and his bouquet. It wrapped itself around every single olfactory nerve I had left after imprinting Jomi's scent. He did not smell like the Benson I knew. What are you doing here, B? I finally asked. I wasn't good with silences. I wasn't good with broken hearts. Why are you in this bed? Look, he said, I got something to tell you. You may want to sit down. I was sitting. Shoot, buddy. You can tell me anything. He shifted in the bed and scratched at his nubby ear. I've been keeping a little secret these years. Oh, yeah? It's my name, Deacon. My mother's surname. It was gray-tipped. My nostrils flared, hot air forcing my flaps to the point of ripping. My lips lifted in an uncontrolled future snarl. Benson was a gray-tipped? A bona fide member of one of the ruling clan? No, he couldn't be. It started just before the last battle, he said, barely out of my first coat. That's when I met Agoda. His wife, his late wife. She died of complications from a second birthing, the 2 early pups in her belly taken with her. Jomi was his only pup from Agoda. I ever tell you the story how I met Agoda? He asked. He had, many times. Nope, I answered. It was at a volunteer booth for military service. She was in charge of interviews for potentials. But Benson, I interrupted, you don't have the coat. Why don't you look like a gray-tipped? Though now that I looked, the rest of the markers were there. The snow-white undercoat, the long face, the rigid tail looking like a string of puzzle pieces put together in the wrong order. Things never hung right. Why hadn't I seen it? I'm getting to that, he said. When I met Agoda, I was already questioning my place in the clan. My mother said I was always rebellious. But the older I got, the worse it got. The holier-than-thou attitudes, the clan pride, the rules and restrictions, the looking down our noses at mutts. I didn't feel like I belonged. And then I met Agoda. It was like coming home. The look on his face, it hurt all over again. I'd never seen a dog love another like that. Agoda wasn't even judgmental of the clans, he said, even though the clans never participate in the drafts. Hell, she lost her brother and an aunt to the battle before ours. I couldn't tell her, Deacon. I felt so ashamed, you know? I wanted her to like me, to love me for who I was, not for where I came from. I get it, Bea. I do, I said. And I guess it was easier that way, he said. I'd already started dyeing my fur. Ah, so that's why your coat has a beautiful bronze finish. He gave me a small smile, despite everything. Can you believe she never figured it out? All those years, she thought I had an overactive fur-scaping habit. Well, you are fetching, Bea. Maybe a few years ago, he laughed. Now, the family name is catching up to me. How so? I asked. Osteosarcoma, he mouthed. I just stared. Bone cancer, Deacon. It runs rampant through the gray-tipped line. My insides are falling apart. That's why I got this swank room. I had to tell the staff. They would have figured it out anyway. Benson, I'm so sorry. And now Jomi. Ain't there something the docs can do about it? I mean, you're gray-tipped. You gotta have connections. The best doctors and surgeons in the country would bow down for you. You don't understand, Deacon. I cut those ties a long time ago. Even if I wanted their help, they wouldn't take me back. I defected when I did the worst possible thing I could do to my clan. I married Agoda. And then I did the second most awful thing to the clans. I committed the second worst possible crime. I made a puppy with her. Wait a minute. I know the clans frown on that sort of thing, making half-breeds. But would they kill for it? Is that what happened to Jomi? I had to ask the question. I don't think so, he answered quickly. When I say I cut my ties, I mean it. I never went back. I never told them I married or had a pup. They were happy to see me go. Right, I said. They'd rather sweep it under the rug. Hell, I didn't even get the chance to tell her, Deacon. You were gonna tell Jomi now, I said. He nodded. Buddy, I promise you one thing. I'm gonna figure out who did this. I'm gonna bring him down. Don't, Deacon, he said. Don't shame her death and her memory. Say what? Your temper, Deacon. Don't kill the dog. Figure out who killed my little girl. Bring them to justice. Do it the right way. I want to know why. Yeah. Fair enough, Bea. But this other female Jomi mentioned, you have any idea who it might be? You know any fairy views? Never heard of them. The last time I saw Jomi was 2 weeks ago. She was nervous, but she looked okay. But the last time I talked to her, she did sound sick. Or scared. I'm not sure which, but I knew she was in trouble. I should have pressed her more. Maybe it was work. She was so involved with her new job. Which is? Jomi works at Bricktail Pharmaceuticals down in East Flatbush. I even went there this morning. Took everything I had. Benson, you shouldn't have left the hospital. You should have called me. They said she hadn't shown up to work for a week. He ignored me. Jomi was a lot of things, Deacon, but she was never flaky. She hadn't been home in about a week either. The one thing I didn't tell Benson, couldn't tell him, was that Jomi and the dogs I chased dripped with the scent of 6 Points, the single most dangerous district in the 5 boroughs. You didn't carry the 6-point scent unless you were homeless, a druggie, or in a gang. How about a boyfriend? I asked instead. No, he said, but talked to our housemates. They told me Jomi was disappearing a lot over the last few months, and Benson's breath got shorter and shorter until my index claw hovered over the nurse's call button. No, he slapped my paw away. Get out of here, Deacon. I want to be alone. I need to rest before I go down and see her. Whew. That's a heavy chapter, kids. I hope to see you next time. Until then, stay warm.